Have you guys ever been fortunate enough to get a brand new guitar, pull it out of the box, be so happy with it that you don't feel like you need to change anything, and then take it to a gig and play it on stage the same night? Well, I have. In fact, it was yesterday, and it was this, the Dunable Asteroid DE. And today, we're gonna take a look at it. Let's do it! Alright, hope you guys are doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle, and what I do is I take all sorts of awesome high gain related guitar equipment, I record it with a simple setup, and I give you the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into East End or thrash riffs, drop C hardcore riffs, and dudes that are just now realizing that they have some sort of weird stain on their shirt, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks. Alright guys, so today is very, very exciting for me because I was very, very excited to receive this guitar, and once I pulled it out of the box and played it a little bit, I was very, very excited to share it with you guys. Dunable is a brand that I have previously covered on my channel already. If you guys missed it, I did a review on the R2DE that I bought while my band Bushido Code was on tour at Chicago Music Exchange because I just loved it that much. I loved it so much, in fact, that I went ahead and bought the same exact guitar in the Silverburst finish once I found a decent deal on it. And I will be modifying these guitars slightly in the future, so if you don't want to miss any cool Dunable content, make sure that you're subscribed because we're gonna have a good time. So long story short on the R2DE model, absolutely loved it. Was floored by the overall quality. It is just an amazing instrument, one that I fell in love with as soon as I pulled it off the rack, and the guitar that really started to make me take a serious look at the rest of the Dunable line. Now, I knew Dunable had a Flying V model in their lineup, and all the pictures of the Custom USA ones I saw looked really, really cool, but if I'm being 100% honest, I'm not a custom order guitar guy. I'm way too flighty, I'm way too impatient to place an order and wait a year or two for a fully customized guitar. So Dunable's Flying V model, the Asteroid, was kind of always just one of those where I was like, okay, if I see the right one, you know, if someone spec'd one out the way that I would personally buy it, you know, close enough, I'll take a hard look at it, but until then, I'm just gonna hold off. And then NAMM 2023 rolled around, and guess what? Dunable essentially made the exact guitar that I was looking for, and they made it on their DE line, which is their import line. The DE line has great specs. They are all spec'd out by Dunable themselves. They even have legit Dunable pickups in them. They have good parts on these guitars, but they're just made overseas and imported to keep the costs down so they can make larger runs and sell them at a lower price than the USA stuff. You know, how every other company does import lines. So long story short, before I begin to ramble, I saw that Dunable was making the Asteroid in the Silverburst finish with basically all the appointments that I would give it, and I knew it was only a matter of time before I would own this guitar. Now, luckily for me, I'm a full-time YouTuber and I actually have a relationship with the company who markets Dunable. So they sent me this. And this is where I let you know that this is a sponsored video. Dunable have paid me to share this with you guys here on my channel, and I'm super appreciative of that. But feel free to take everything I say with a massive grain of salt. You're more than fair to do so. Just know you're gonna get my honest thoughts and opinions as you always do, so keep that in mind. But my honest thoughts and opinions on this are literally gushing. Now, there is maybe one thing that I would change about this guitar, and we'll get into that in a minute, but I can already tell you I have spent a significant amount of time with this guitar. Like I said, I gigged out with it with my band Human Animal, did not let me down whatsoever, sounded great, stayed in tune, and most importantly, there's no neck dive. So you can actually play this thing standing up without having to worry about it doing this on you. So real quick, I just wanted to kind of breeze through some of the specs, and then we're gonna play through some Synergy modules, get some different tones out of this thing, and I'm gonna give you my thoughts on this guitar in real time, because that's how I personally do guitar demos. But real quick, let's play one more riff through it, and then we'll get into the specs. Alright guys, so spec time, let's get nerdy. The Dunable Asteroid DE has a mahogany body with a mahogany neck, and it's also got an ebony fretboard, which personally is my favorite fretboard wood. I honestly love the feeling of playing guitars that have a nice ebony fretboard on them because it is incredibly smooth, the grain is incredibly tight, and it just feels nice under the old fingies. The frets laid on that ebony fretboard are jumbo nickel silver, and then for the inlays, we've got the Perloid blocky boys. Not really surprising to see mother of toilet seat on an import guitar. That's pretty much just standard fare at this price point. For the neck, we've got a medium C, and I will say it's not really a chunky boy. It's got a decent amount of girth to it, but it's definitely not anything like, you know, a Gibson baseball bat V-neck, which you would find on a lot of the older V's, which I personally am a fan of, but this one might suit a few more people because it's not gigantic, it's a nice in-between. At the top of the neck here, we have a nice Graphtec Tusk nut, which in my opinion is pretty much an absolute necessity at this point. There's no reason that most of these brands should not be putting Graphtec nuts on these guitars, but whenever I see it, it still makes me happy because I know that as long as it's cut right, this guitar is gonna stay in tune. We've also got the 3 per side headstock, which, you know, I don't know how you guys feel about these headstocks on a V-shaped guitar. At first, I thought it was a little bit jarring, but honestly, the more I look at it, the more it just kind of looks natural. It looks right, and it really doesn't personally bother me. It falls in line with all of the other Dunable models. They all have the same headstock, so it only makes sense. Moving to the back of the headstock, one of the areas where this guitar actually differs from my R2 is that one has the lightweight open gear, open machine tuners, whatever you want to call them. This one actually has generic locking boys on it, so I actually prefer that. I love locking tuners specifically for the fact that it makes string changes easier when you're on stage or in a hurry, and to me, that is, you know, something that's really necessary. As somebody who actually plays out a lot, like that comes in handy. I've definitely had to change strings mid-set before, and the locking tuners have come in handy. Will it make the weight at the headstock heavier? Yes. Does that give more of a chance for neck dive? Yes, but in this particular model, I'm not suffering from that, but just keep that in mind in case you are worried about the neck dive thing. Moving down to the body, we've got a black 3-layer pick guard. We've got a Tune-o-matic, generic Tune-o-matic bridge and tailpiece. We got a couple of cool silver spaceship, whatever you want to call them. I like spaceship because spaceships are cool. Style knobs, and then we've got our 3-way switch. One thing that I love that they have done on this model is instead of separating the input jack and putting it down here with the dumb, dopey looking diamond input jack plate, they have just kind of put it all together in the single pick guard, and I think that that just makes for a much nicer, cleaner aesthetic overall, so I'm a big fan of that. We've got one volume control, we've got one tone control, and then for the pickups, we have the Dunable Cthulhu pickup set. These are the same pickups that came in my RD guitars, and honestly, I feel the same way about these pickups that I felt about the pickups in that guitar, and that is, they're not for me. For as much as I've been gushing about this guitar and as much as I love it, the pickups are gonna be the first and honestly probably only thing that I change about both this and the R2 models, because generally Dunable guitars seem to be popular in the doom and the stoner rock type of genres. That's who they seem to be aimed at. Well, I'm a thrash guy and I'm a hardcore guy, so I like a very bright, very mid-forward, but also lots of top-end clarity and a tight low-end type of tone. And these are pretty much the antithesis of that. These are very dark pickups. The top end is rolled off, very thick mid-range, and the low end definitely not super fast or super tight. Now, I don't think that they sound bad. I think that they sound great for what they were intended to do, which are the genres that I previously mentioned. But personally, I'm gonna change these out in the future for something else. But I will say that using the right overdrive that you can really kind of sculpt your tones with, you won't even really notice the pickups, and that's what I've been doing, and that's what I'm gonna show you guys. And that all brings me to my final point, or my final spec point on this guitar, and this is where I personally would like to change it a little bit. This has a 25.5-inch scale, which on the R2 was great because the original Gibson RD had a 25.5-inch scale, and Gibson never really makes them with a 25.5-inch scale anymore. So that was very welcome on that guitar. On this guitar, I feel like I would kind of prefer the old school Gibson scale just because I like the chunkier feel. Now, I'm not super picky between 25.5 and 24.75. It's all gonna be personal preference. And honestly, it's probably better that it's 25.5 because it differentiates itself from a Gibson Flying V, and a lot of people are going to like that, and I get it, but you know, for the V style, especially the longer neck, makes it a little bit more awkward to play when you're standing up or when you're sitting down. I would personally prefer that scale, but again, that's a personal preference thing, just like the pickups are a personal preference thing. I mean, honestly, there's nothing wrong with this. The fit and finish on this guitar is absolutely perfect. It came perfectly intonated out of the box. It stays in tune. The body is resonant. It sounds great. The neck has not moved even a centimeter. Actually, a centimeter is a lot. You know what I mean. It hasn't moved at all. It's been super solid since I pulled it out of the box almost a month ago already. And I've been nothing but happy with this guitar. It's incredibly comfortable to play because on the back, you've got the tummy cut here, which on a V, super, super cool. And then on the top, we've got a beveled edge. So it's like this guitar was just built for comfort. It's built for big, fat, hairy dudes who just wanna play the same note over and over again through a fuzz pedal for hours on end. It's also built for regular sized dudes who are weird and awkward like myself. So with all that information out of the way, let's go ahead, let's get set up and let's get a few different tones out of this guitar because I'm sure you're already sick of hearing me talking. Let's go. All right guys, so I have this guitar and my Happy Cable Company cable plugged into the Synergy Syn 50 power amp, and we've got a couple different modules to play around with just to get us a couple of different tones. We're going into a Marshall 1960 BX cabinet with an SM57 on the stock green bag. The first tone you heard in this video was the SLO module. The second tone was the BE Deluxe module, and we're gonna keep it there for a second. Here's what we got. Alright, so that is boosted with the Licklaren King in yellow, which you guys know right about now is my absolute favorite boost primarily because you can tailor the lows, the low mids, the highs, the high mids, everything going into the front of the amp. Let's kick that off though, because I think you'll be surprised at how much of a difference it makes. Not just in saturation, but listen to how much looser it is, listen to how much lower output it is, and the highs, how rolled off they are. So as you guys can probably hear, it's a little chunky boy on the bottom. It's a little bit nasally. Seems to have a decent amount of low mids in this pickup. Let's see if we can actually go for some sort of a crunch tone. We're gonna roll the volume down and then kick it up a bit. All right, so that was rolling off the volume about 50%. Didn't clean up like amazingly well, but it's still cleaned up. So if you need it to do that, it will, but it's not the best I've ever heard in that capacity. Let's check a quick Soldano crunch mid-gain tone, and then we'll move on to the high gain stuff. All right, so as you can see, it's just rolled off on the top. It definitely needs a little help in those upper frequencies to really kind of get aggressive. Again, Dunable seems to cater more towards the doom stoner rock type of crowd, so it makes perfect sense. But also again, I'm a belligerent amateur thrash idiot, so let's get some of those tones going. One thing I want to point out, man, this top bevel on this guitar is just incredibly comfortable. Like, I noticed it when we were playing live, how much more comfortable it was to play standing up versus a regular like Gibson Flying V without that bevel. This just makes a world of difference, especially along with the tummy cut. Right now, the guitar is not up against my body, but still, it's like my arm would be digging into a right angle right now if I was trying to hit those chugs the same way. It would be very uncomfortable. So sitting down and playing, as you see me playing right now, it's a really nice experience as far as playing Flying V sitting goes. I'm really, really into that bevel, and I definitely think that that is a very, very key addition to this guitar from a playability standpoint. So well done, Dunable. All right, guys, I would be upset with myself if I didn't visit my belligerent amateur roots and play some crossover thrash and hardcore type stuff, as well as a drop C hardcore riff. So we're gonna do both of those things now, and we are using the PV6505 module to do so. Dude, that sounds so good. This thing is so comfortable to play sitting down too. This is a lot of fun. Last but not least, let's do a drop C hardcore riff. Let's get that gain pushed up a little bit. Alright, so pretty much like any humbucker loaded guitar, it does pretty much everything we need it to do as long as we shape the tone going into the amp correctly, which is what we have done, and shape the amp and cab and all that stuff. As long as that setup is good, the guitar doesn't really matter, but what does matter is that this guitar has an excellent fit and finish to it. It's extremely comfortable to play considering the body shape. It is not neck heavy, it does not neck dive, it stays in tune, it came out of the box well intonated, it's got locking tuners, so if you need to do quick string changes and stuff like that, no problem at all. The frets were very well done from the factory, the setup was very well done from the factory, and I have not touched a thing on this guitar since I pulled it out of the box. And I think that that is just a very, very solid testament for the quality of these Dunable DE guitars, and I could not be more happy with this Asteroid DE. This thing's gonna get a ton of playing time from me. You're gonna see it in future videos to come. And Sascha Dunable, if you're listening to this, in lieu of payment for this video, can I just get one in the black and gold finish? Because I would much rather have that than money. And then that way I can put even different pickups in that one, and I can use these in even more videos. Be a win-win for everybody. But that is gonna do it for me today, guys, on the Dunable Asteroid DE. Love this guitar, but I wanna know what you guys think. Let me know down below in the comments. Really curious to see your thoughts. When I posted a picture of me with this guitar on stage, it got a big pop on all my social media accounts, so I have a feeling that you guys are gonna really, really dig this thing as well. But I wanna hear it straight from the horse's keyboard. So drop it down below in the comments. I'll be sure to meet you down there to talk about it. This guitar comes in at $1349, brand new, and I'll link to a couple of different dealers that will have this guitar in stock. At the time of this video, there are multiple different finishes as well, which I probably should have mentioned at the beginning of this video. So there's one of these to fit every belligerent amateur out there. This video has been a lot of fun, guys. I really, really enjoyed this guitar. Hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, slap that like button. Consider subscribing so you don't miss any more of my future uploads. All the further ways to support my channel are down in the description of this video, and I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. So thanks so much for watching. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time.
You know what this wall is missing? Another amp. There we go.